Hello, I am Jody Wolf. You're watching EXPOZ. Today is September 21, 2011, 2:24 a.m., Birmingham, Alabama. Today's topic, Egypt. Your time is nearing an end. And, fix this little crooked cap. 86 million people lived in Egypt 100 years ago, thereabout. And Egypt was an absolutely beautiful country and diversified with people, ethnic groups of Greeks, Christians, Jews, Turks, Europeans, and many others. Well, the Egyptian government decided to impose a tax on all the people who were not Egyptians because they wanted their country to be primarily Muslim. And it was not. This is a form of ethnic cleansing. Not the first, but it was a form of ethnic cleansing. And again, get those out who are not Muslim. So roughly 76 million were Muslim, and a few million became Muslim just to keep from paying the tax, because Egypt government imposed a tax on all people who were not Egyptians or who were not Muslims. And Muslim was underlined. And so after people kind of changed over and decided, well, I'll be Muslim, I don't want to pay a fee. And but two groups of people would not. And you probably guessed it, it's Jews and Christians. And so the Jews were probably one of the first to leave. And Christians slowly trickled out. And when I say slowly, I mean they're still trickling out. So, but they're almost gone. And you hear the horror stories of Christian bookstores being burned out, of Christian store owners being murdered, Christian families being murdered. And this goes on in Egypt, the same country that we give hundreds of millions of dollars to. And but you know, the problem was that the only ones that left and remained and were not Muslim were Coptic Christians. And so the problem here is that the Christians and the Jews were the backbone. Now, they were the backbone. They were the force of this country. And Jews, everywhere they go, everything they touch turns to gold. You know that. And I wish I did. Wow. But anyway, they were the backbone of the country. Well, it was them that made Egypt run and maintain a place in a growing, productive, and producing world. They, the Christians, were the last ones left, and the numbers was around 10 million. Well, today, the ethnic cleansing is gaining speed at a rapid pace. The Christians were told either convert to Muslim or leave. And the third option was or die. And you see today that several are dying because they haven't left yet. So as the 10 million Christians trickled out, left, and are almost all gone, and most have come to America, which leaves 76 million, and the numbers really not moved too much over centuries or a century or near a century. 76 million Egyptians who are Muslim. Now, Egypt has a major problem since the Christians and the Jews are gone. And this problem is a big one. It's called the Muslim Brotherhood. They're slowly moving in and beginning to take control of Egypt. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care how many kings live in Egypt or how many families claim to rule Egypt. The Muslim Brotherhood is coming in and they're taking over. It was the Christians and the Jews who were actually the force that kept the Muslim Brotherhood out. It was God who stood behind certain people like the Jews and the Christians, and not to leave out many other races of good people. Greeks, Turks, there were several, but they were good people. So that was like a wall of protection around Egypt and couldn't be penetrated. For really hundreds of years, the wall of protection has finally been removed. And now, for this particular blog that you're listening to, I'm going to get to the subject, and it's critical matter. Egypt has two dams. One dam is named Low Aswan Dam. One is named High Aswan Dam. The dams were built with the help of the Russians, and they hold water back that if the dams were destroyed, now keep in mind they hold water back that's over 1,000 feet deep in places. But if the dams were destroyed, the entire country of Egypt could be covered under 20 feet of water. And this is a fact. Now, back several years, the Russians built, I think in the 50s, a tower, and it was at the Aswan High Dam. It was called the Tower of Syene. The tower is meant as a monument, a peace, or a goodwill tower. So, to actually damage this dam would take more than a conventional strike. It would take a nuclear device because of its size. And the size mainly in its width and its depth couldn't be destroyed by conventional means. But the Bible says, at or near the end, Egypt would be laid waste for 40 years. The Bible also mentioned a tower would stand near the ruins of Egypt. And they named the tower, the Bible says, Tower of Syene. Interesting, since that was written 2,000 years ago, there was no dam, there was no Tower of Syene, so no one knew what they meant. But if the dam broke, then all of Egypt would be under 20 feet of water, including the Great Pyramids. The land would be laid waste, and no man would enter for 40 years. Well, today we know why Egypt will be destroyed, and it will be, and we know how it will be destroyed, and I'll explain. The Muslim Brotherhood will take over Egypt. They will destroy the land, the people, and probably use Egypt as their home base for attacks on the surrounding neighbors, including Israel. Egypt controls the Suez Canal, and its location is very strategic. If and they will strike their neighbors, the Muslim Brotherhood, it's my guess that when they strike against Israel from Egypt, Israel will nuke the Aswan high and low dams. Then, as the Bible says, Syene will stand over Egypt, the wasteland of the great kings. It's amazing how accurate the Bible is. Read the story. Read it, and you'll know your own future. And one more thing, quickly, Damascus, the oldest city in the world, will be destroyed too. Jody Wolf, EXPOZ.